Now, you're dealing with a narcissist in a court setting, and you're feeling like they just always get their way. I've dealt with it so many times where people will come into my office, even in the beginning of a case, and say, I think that they're going to fool everyone because the person who's the narcissist is going to win, is going to get everybody to believe that they're wonderful and I'm horrible. And narcissists do start their smear campaigns in that in that discard phase. And if you want to know more about what the signs are of a smear campaign, definitely check out my video on signs of a narcissist smear campaign. But once that smear campaign starts, they're in this mode of trying to make sure that you're the one that looks bad and they're the one that looks good. So they're going to be kind of love bombing everybody in the system, including the judges, including their lawyer, your lawyer even, and if there's a custody evaluator involved, they're going to be love bombing that person. And they're going to be trying to make you look like you're the bad one. So they may be filing bogus motions. They may be calling you an abuser, really horrible things. I've seen, really good parents be the victim of the other parent saying, that parent is an abuser, or that parent is unfit, or that parent is a drug addict, or something like that. And you're sitting there thinking, I'm like having coffee in my house, I don't really know. But they start that, and they not only say it to people sometimes, they actually even put it in pleadings. You'll actually see a motion or something that is filled with lies. And you think, how are they getting away with this? How are they getting away with this? I can't tell you how many clients I've heard say to me, how are they getting away with this? Well, let me just first address that. The one thing that you have to remember is that the only person who has any power to order somebody to do something is the judge, no one else. I actually had a client say to me, you've done nothing to control him and his behavior. And I remember thinking, what would I do other than file motions? Because that's the power that your lawyer has, is to file something with the court. But remember, when something is filed with the court, it just sits there in the clerk's file, doesn't do anything until a hearing is actually had, because those filings are, for the most part, not evidence that can be accepted into the court system, actually in a hearing setting. So once that motion is filed, then you can go in front of a judge. And that's how you can start exposing the narcissist in court. How do you do it? You do it by not actually saying the person is a narcissist. Don't use the word narcissist in court. I actually have a whole video on that. Make sure you check that out on whether you can even use the word narcissist in court. But what you're going to do is you're going to actually have other ways that you can expose this narcissist for their behavior. And you do that very systematically. There's no magic wand. There's no go buy this thing and that's going to be the thing, other than the S.L.E.A.Y program, because the S.L.E.A.Y program will show you how to do that. But what you're going to be doing is creating documentation and exhibits that actually systematically show that that person is a bad person. And you want to do it in light of the statutes, in light of something that the judge is going to care about. Because remember, the judge has to apply the law. That's the judge's job. So what a judge will do is they'll listen to that side, they'll listen to this side, but remember, they just get a little teeny snapshot. You might have been dealing with this person for 15 or 20 years. You get like a couple of hours in front of a judge to expose this person. So you want to make sure it's good. You want to make sure that it packs a punch. So you're going to create summaries, for example, of when the person lied, and then have all your supporting documentation attached to it, or create summaries of when they didn't pick up the kids, or didn't show up on time, or bad-mouthed you, you know, something like that, but you're going to do it in light of the statute. So if the best interest of the child statute says that parents are supposed to foster a close and continuing relationship between the children and the other parent, and you've got tons of text messages where they're saying to the kids that, you know, the other parent is an alcoholic, or you know, neglectful, doesn't want you, or something like that, those become wonderful trial exhibits. So, you know, you're actually giving the judge something that they can hold on to, that they can use when they're applying that law, that actually gives you the results that you actually want. Just going in and saying that person is a narcissist isn't going to get you anywhere. So that's not how you expose them. You expose them by actually doing your homework, which a lot of that, I have a 45-page workbook in the S.L.E.A.Y program, so you should definitely check that out. But that's how you're ultimately going to expose them, by systematically using the information that you have and putting it together in light of the statutes that the judge is actually going to care about. That's how you will expose them. And if you are so ready to expose that narcissist in court, give me an expose the truth in the comments. So remember that narcissists feed off of narcissistic supply, and one of the things that they're going to do is try to get all the judges and everybody to love them. So what you want to do is create leverage by figuring out which person in the system they're going to respect the most, which is probably the judge, and then create leverage, which is going to potentially threaten to expose them for who they are. So, and if you want to know more about leverage, definitely check out my video on creating leverage. But that's going to be one of the whole keys to this whole thing. That's the L in my S.L.E.A.Y program. So S is strategy and L is leverage. So you want to create this leverage that's going to threaten to expose them, and that way they potentially might even settle. And I know a lot of people think, oh, nobody ever settles with a narcissist. You can never get them to settle, but that is so not true. If you threaten a supply source that's more important for them to keep than the supply that they get from jerking you around in the system, you will be able to resolve your case. All right, so it's vital to understand what the breakdown is. So many people feel like the court system is stacked against you. And in a way, it kind of is. And the reason why I'm going to tell you that is because it's not built to get punitive damages for you if a person's been a narcissist. That's not its job. Its job, especially, you know, if you're in a divorce situation, is to divide assets or to give people their kids, give people time with their kids. That's the job. Or, you know, if there's a spousal support claim, then okay. Even if it's a business dispute, maybe it's a probate litigation claim, or maybe it's something else, right? Defamation, whatever it is. The job of the judge is to apply the law agnostically, to go, okay, what statute applies here? And let me see how it's been interpreted by case law and move on. And you've got a judge who more than likely has way too many cases on their docket, and more than likely has heard everybody on their brother and sister, you know, on the whole freaking planet at this point. Everyone's a narcissist now. So they don't want to hear about that. That's on one side of it. And by the way, judges are overworked, underpaid, maybe highly esteemed, sort of, you know, at this point, I don't even know. They're government workers. That's what they are. They get paid the same regardless of what you decide to do. They're not getting paid more. There's no bonus involved. They do get evaluated based on how quickly they get cases off their dockets, or how often they get appealed. If they are appealed too often or things happen, they're not going to get reelected or reappointed, depending on how it is that they got that position in the first place. They're not lifetime appointees like the Supreme Court, the US Supreme Court, right? If they're looking to stay in that job for a long period of time, then they may just choose the safe route. There's a lot at play politically for the judge as well. So you got to think about that. That's one side of the equation. So, they might just take the safe route and go, it's easier for me to just see what's going on here. Okay, apply. The other side of it is, from your perspective, let's say it's a divorce situation, what you may be coming into this as, hey, I got married for life and I expected that this was going to be my life. I signed up to be married to a person who I thought was going to be the love bomb version, and they turned out to be the devil from hell, the worst possible thing ever. And I didn't expect that. And somebody's got to pay. Somebody's got to make up for this to me. I want somebody to help me. And so there's this disconnect here. And so, you may be going, hey, somebody's got to make this up to me. Well, you can't look to the judge to do that, because the judge's job, that's not the judge's job. So what you need to do is figure out how you're going to present this to the judge, to the court, in a way that they're going to care. Because if you don't, then that's where you fall short. From a divorce perspective, there's something else that is really important for you to understand. And that is that there is a big, huge myth out there. And that is that no fault means that fault never matters. And that is flatly wrong, because no fault just means that you don't have to prove fault in order to get a divorce. In the old days, you had to prove grounds like abuse or adultery. Nowadays, you don't. You just have to say that the marriage is irretrievably broken or something like that. But fault matters all the time. You can say that somebody has been a horrible parent. You can say that somebody's wasted assets. You can say that somebody's been a liar. And then that will be taken into consideration depending on what the statute provides. And that's where you look at the terms of your statute. And that's when you start speaking the language of the court. And that's how you get the judge to care. Does this make sense? If this makes sense, give me a yes in the comments. This is where you build your connection between what you care about and what the judge is going to care about. Now, how are you going to do this? You can't obviously just come in and say the things that you want to say, because then it's just your word against the other person's word. You've got to have proof. What's your proof? Your proof is going to be in your documentation. Your documentation is going to be your detailed records. It could be emails, it could be texts, it could be witnesses, it could be videos. There's a number of different things it could be, but you want to keep detailed records of everything, all interactions with that narcissist, dates, times, specifics. It could be voicemails, anything that demonstrates their behavior. I've had people keep meticulous records, and then those things end up being summaries. You can keep timelines. Timelines end up being beautiful. You think that you have it in your head, but when you start laying it out and you start to see what it is on paper or on your screen or whatever it is nowadays, you will get to see patterns. It is those patterns that end up being the gold for you, because they never think that you're going to keep track. When they say, hey, I'm Mr. Dad, I'm Mr. Dad. And then when they ask for a change in the schedule, 50% of the time in a 4-month period, it becomes gold. But you've got to document it. You document behavior, and that, or you have coworkers, or you have piano teachers, or you have whoever it is that helps you, because it paints a comprehensive picture of the environment, of the community, of everything that's been going on. Because you got to understand, the judge walks out, they don't know you. And a lot of times, all they see is the reaction from you. Because you know what they do. They bait you, they trigger you, and then the narcissist goes, oh, there's the crazy one over there. See, I'm the calm, wonderful one. You see that I'm the one who is nice and wonderful, Your Honor. And the way they do it is just so manipulative, and you know that, right? So you have to establish patterns of behavior. The other way that you can do it, if you can afford it, is bringing in experts, third-party neutral experts for forensics. It could be a custody evaluation. It could be for a lifestyle analysis, for income or purposes of support. It could be for business valuations. But the more that you can have those third-party neutral evaluators, the better it is. You better make sure it's somebody that you're going to trust, who's going to do a good job. I'm always really careful about that. Oftentimes, I also like to use technology to my advantage, digital communications, keep things in real time. It's really, really helpful. If you think you're going to go back and recreate, it's just not helpful. You want to stay organized in real time. Have an organizer for your cases. Have an organizer for your timeline. I would have a coach. I train coaches. I have coaches that are available to help you. I have my programs to help you. I have all kinds of a suite of resources for you. If you want a resource to get you started that's free, go to my free Crush My Negotiation Prep Playbook at winmynegotiation.com. It's a great place to get you started. Also, my free Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung, get you started there. You definitely want to have a suite of tools, resources, people who are going to support you, because obviously they're going to gaslight you. They're going to light you up with litigation. They're going to ignore your court orders. They're going to ignore your attempts to get discovery. I mean, I would definitely use subpoenas where you can, because they're going to give you half of replies, and they're going to make you work for everything, make it as expensive as possible, and then make sure it's your fault. I mean, everything's going to be a thing. And you want to have a good lawyer, not to overly rely on, because you just want to use the lawyer for just the parts that you need, which is just present the law, present the case. Everything else you want to organize. You want to be driving the bus, and you want to know what you're doing. That's where I come in to help you with that through my programs, because I'm here to help you save your money, put it in your pocket. So proving narcissistic abuse can be daunting, but not really, because they are very simple to understand. They're simple creatures to understand. They're difficult to deal with, but they're simple to understand. So remember, you're not alone. Don't try to do this alone. That's how you can prove narcissistic abuse. I have helped people win. They only win if you give in. You absolutely can do this. You have to believe it. You must believe that you can do it. That's how you start. If you think you're going to give up and you think that you're going to lose, they have you. The minute that you think that, they have you. So don't give them that satisfaction. Have you ever met somebody, they started off to be the most charming, charismatic person you've ever met in your life. Then they turned out to be your worst nightmare. And then when you go to negotiate with them, they're a living hell. Well, I developed something called the S.L.E.A.Y method of negotiating with narcissists, and it has helped tens of thousands of people in more than 150 countries win, go from feeling drained and defeated to getting the outcomes they want. And the reason why it works is because I spent more than 20 years studying narcissism as a trial attorney, and now I'm here to help you win too, and also take your suffering and turn it into your superpower. Take your pain and turn it into profit, peace, and purpose as a highly specialized, high conflict negotiation coach. If you want to learn how to do it, then just go to RebeccaZung.com/apply, and I will show you how. So today we're diving into a topic that could be the key to you winning your legal battle against a narcissist. If you've ever been in a courtroom facing off against a narcissist, you know how incredibly challenging it can be. They lie, they manipulate, they twist the truth, they do anything they can to serve their own agendas. But there is one crucial strategy that once you have it in your hand, you can win, you can expose them, you can take them down, you can walk away with everything that you want and move on to have your life. And that's what you want. That's what it's all about. It's about freedom. It's about having peace away from the drama, trauma, and chaos, having that freedom, possibility, and purpose. But this one crucial strategy is the thing that most lawyers miss because they don't understand high conflict personalities. They don't understand narcissists, something that can expose the narcissist for who they truly are. So it's time to turn the tide in your favor. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to be equipped with the knowledge that you need to outmaneuver even the most cunning, most manipulative narcissist in court. So let's get right to it. The one crucial strategy that you need, that you can have to expose that narcissist in court, is something that often gets overlooked, and that is the power of documented patterns of behavior. Now, I know this sounds straightforward. I know that this sounds like, come on, let me tell you why this is so critical and why so many people, even lawyers, fail to leverage it so effectively. So you got to, number one, step one, understand the narcissist MO, modus operandi. Narcissists are masters of deception. In court, they present themselves as charming and reasonable, even victims of individuals. But behind this facade lies a pattern of abusive, manipulative behavior that they've likely been engaging in for years. The key to exposing them is not just in pointing out individual incidents of bad behavior, but you have to have a way to spin it by demonstrating consistent patterns of actions that reveal their true character. Imagine you're in court and a narcissist is trying to convince the judge that they're this innocent party. And it's very easy to do sometimes if you, for example, are the one with the money, or you're the one with the power job, and they're the ones with like the lesser position. Maybe you have one single instance where you lost it. You sent a nasty email, or you were caught in a stressed out situation. If you can show a series of text messages or emails or witness testimonies, or all of this strung together, where they paint a picture of demonstrated behavior over a period of time, it's much harder for them to deny, where they were obstinate, where they were refused, they didn't respond. That is where you can demonstrate a repeated pattern over time, vexatious pattern, harassing behavior, overarching demonstrated pattern. That's where you want to argue. So how do you go about gathering? Number two, gathering and presenting this evidence. It's all about documentation, and you want to collect everything: emails, text messages, social media posts, recordings, whatever you have, testimonies from people who have been witnesses, and start gathering the behavior. The goal is to compile a timeline. You want to have this whole dossier, a tome that clearly illustrates the pattern. And then you're going to have many different summaries, tables. So you're going to say date, email, tab 1, date, text, tab 2. You're not just saying this person did this once, but rather this person has a history of doing this, and here's the proof. That way, the narcissist sees through the person's charm when they're faced with overwhelming evidence of a person's manipulative behavior. And you can call it summary of lies and inconsistent statements, summary of times that wife repeatedly offered to do X and husband refused, or summary of times that wife was late, or whatever it was. And so that you can demonstrate a pattern of consistent behavior. And I've known people who are in my coaching program who have been trained by me throughout this process, who understand what I've trained them how to do this, who've gone into court with 125 exhibits like this and won everything, even when their lawyer didn't think that they could win. So if you want to get started with this, if you go to docthenarc.com, I show you exactly what to start documenting. Just go to docthenarc.com and it will show you exactly what to do and how to get started with documenting the narcissist, okay? Learning how to document exactly what to do is just the beginning. Creating that and turning it into leverage, knowing what to expose is the next step. Knowing their diamond level supply versus their coal level supply. Their diamond level supply is their reputation, how they look to the world, what it is that they're trying to portray. I'm this good person, or I'm this victim. You have to know what it is in their behavior, or what it is that they're trying to portray, and then threaten that form of supply, because the supply that they're getting from manipulating you, from keeping you in this game, that's a strong source of supply for them as well. So you've got to be prepared to have them let go of that stronghold. Most lawyers do not understand that. They miss that. And this is the strategy. This is where most lawyers drop the ball. It's not just about showing the narcissist behavior. It's about linking that behavior to the legal issues at hand. So for instance, if you're in a custody battle, you want to demonstrate how the narcissist pattern of manipulation directly impacts their ability to co-parent effectively. If it's a financial dispute, show how their consistent dishonesty and lack of transparency have led to a financial misconduct. The goal is to make the judge care, right? Because they only care about the law. So you want to weave that in. See, this isn't just about who's more likable or the fact that they're a narcissist. They don't care about that, but you want to weave it into the law. And hey, they don't like it if it's violating the law. So that's step 3, weave it into the law. Step 4, let's talk about the common mistakes to avoid here. Don't rely on character witnesses alone. I know so many times I've talked to people and they're like, I've got 40,000 witnesses. I've got this baseball coach and I've got my neighbor and I've got my sister-in-law. There's only so many hours in a day when you've got these hearings. You're not going to be able to parade in half the town, and the judge has no patience for that, and you don't want to be paying your lawyer for all that time either. It's great to have people who can testify as to the narcissist behavior, but the testimony can be dismissed as biased, for one thing. Real hard evidence is so much better. So things that can't be refuted, things that can't be explained away is going to be so much better. If you've got text messages where he said something or in their own hand, it's better. Okay. Second, do not get emotional. You know, narcissists are experts at pushing your buttons, especially in court or during depositions or anything like that. Do not allow them to push your buttons. They're going to make faces at you. They're going to roll their eyes. They're going to say things. Do not take the bait. Put your invisible shield down around you. Don't even look over there. Just expect that that's what they're going to do. Let it go. Let it on go by you. Okay. Just stay calm, stick to the facts, let the evidence speak for itself. Next, don't expect things to happen overnight. Narcissists are persistent. They're going to use every trick in the book to drag things out. You have to be in this to keep on going, do what you need to do, Don't sit there and go, it's not fair. It's not, how are they getting away with this? You have to keep to your strategy. Have your vision. That's all part of my S.L.E.A.Y method. Have your vision. That's your strategy. Keep going with your leverage. Anticipate that they're going to do what they're going to do, but you stay 2 steps ahead. And then you is your mindset. You're 100% knowing that you're going to win, and you stay on the offensive. And if you need extra support, join my free private Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung, so you have support helping you. If you don't have a therapist, I have a sponsor on this channel, which is BetterHelp. Go to betterhelp.com/Rebecca Zung to get the help and support that you need. We receive commissions on that. It doesn't cost you any extra. We just want you to have help and support that you can trust. Just make sure that you are doing anything that you need to do to get the self-care that you need. And just say, I am doing this in the comments if you're ready to do this. Okay, so put I am doing this because you need to do this. Step 5, stay the course, keep your composure. And I want to remind you that dealing with a narcissist in court is not just about winning the case. This is about you becoming the most powerful version of yourself. On the other side of this is you, your authentic, powerful, badass self, your peace, your future. Narcissists thrive on chaos and conflict. They're going to continue to be their narky selves no matter what. You are going to be so powerful on the other side of this. You're not going to let them succeed. They only win if you give it. Focus on the long game. Continue to document their patterns. Every time they do something that's frustrating, they don't pay, they don't show up, do whatever it is, just say thank you for the gift to yourself. Just say thank you for the gift, and you document it down, because it's a gift, because it becomes part of your leverage. It becomes something that you use against them in court. You use it to your advantage. Use it to reclaim your future. Use it to reclaim your power. Ensure that justice is served. It becomes part of the karma that you use against them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a series of questions, because I want to make sure that you are so ready to deal with a narcissist in a variety of situations. And by the way, you better be careful when you're dealing with a narcissist, and take good care, because you will want to make sure you protect yourself. And if you're in any sort of danger, make sure that you call the police or call the domestic violence hotline if you do need to. So I don't want to put you in any sort of danger. You know that I am an attorney. And so I do want to make sure before we delve into this that, we do understand what we're dealing with. All right. So before we dive into the types of questions, I want you to understand the narcissistic mind. So you know that narcissists thrive on control. They thrive on being admired. They need that narcissistic supply. All right. They have a very, very fragile ego, and questioning their authority can be the thing that causes that narcissistic collapse, right? Pulling that rug out from under them or exposing them in some way. So how can you use questions to cause that collapse in some way? So understand it's always going to be about supply. Everything is about supply for them. They're like rats in a maze. It's that one thing that motivates them. It's that one thing that incentivizes them. And when you are negotiating with them, which is what I teach people how to do through my S.L.E.A.Y programs, and S.L.E.A.Y, by the way, is an acronym, which is strategy, leverage, anticipate, and focus on you, which, is what I teach people how to do. I teach people how to build leverage through looking at supply, because that is the one thing that motivates them and incentivizes them. Now, there are different types of supply. It's diamond level supply, which is how they look to the world. And then there's what I call coal level supply, which is manipulating people, controlling people, degrading people. So understanding how to trigger a narcissistic collapse is going to be tied up in that supply situation, right? So and if you haven't, by the way, subscribed to this channel, I invite you to do that now. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, because I do teach and give free information, resources, tips, tricks every single day. So subscribe, hit that notification bell, because I make sure that I'm turning you all into savvy negotiators out there. All right. And if you are in the process of negotiating with a narcissist, grab my free Crush My Negotiation prep worksheet, winmynegotiation.com, winmynegotiation.com, because that will also help you. And it's a free ebook. It's 15 pages, and it will also help you as well, because it's literally helped thousands and thousands of people now, and it'll help you beat that narcissist on the other side. All right. So understanding that narcissistic mind is so, so important, and how you can use questions strategically to start to pull that rug out from underneath them. All right. So consider the reflective type of question, So a reflective type of question might be something like pondering their actions without directly challenging them, but it kind of gets their juices flowing, right? So how do you think your decisions are? Here's an example. How do you think your decisions will be affecting those around you? It's non-confrontational, but powerful, right? Because they have to start to think about that, right? They're going to start to think about the other people around them and how they might be exposed, because they don't want to look bad to their, what I call diamond level supply. Okay. Which is the people that they, value the most. The next one is the accountability question. This subtly places accountability on them. Remember, when it comes to accountability, the thing they want to do, project and deflect. It's never their fault. It's never their problem. It's never, they always want to say it's your fault. It's somebody else's fault. I couldn't get to it because, someone else was supposed to do something first, because this person didn't do what they were supposed to do, because it wasn't my job, because, it's always something else, right? So, but you can say, what steps are you taking to address the concerns raised? What steps are you taking to handle it? How are you going to rectify the situation? It's about holding them accountable without directly accusing. So how is it going to be handled? How do you suggest we, fix the problem for the future? How do you suggest that we make everybody more accountable? So that you can make sure that there's transparency in the situation for next time. Get it in writing. Exposure, right? You want to expose them. Squeeze them in. You start to squeeze them in. The more that you can start to squeeze them in so that there's transparency and potential exposure, the more you start to set up their collapse. The next one is the empathy sets of questions. Empathy questions can be game changers. All right. Can you help me understand what led you to feel this way? This not only disarms them, but sets them up for, okay, let's have a genuine conversation. What led you to feel this way? What led you to feel that concern? Because that makes them feel very uncomfortable. This is where you're going to really start to get, the project and deflect. Why are you bringing that up now? Why are we having this conversation? This is not a good time. Now you interrupted me. Now you're going to get they're not going to want to have this whole empathy conversation. So, and then the next one is the hypothetical question. It allows you to address situations indirectly. Well, if you were in their shoes, how would you want to be treated? And it invites reflection without confrontation. So, it tries to get them to put them in their shoes. So, but they don't know, they're so, it almost is like they can't do it. They literally can't do it. I mean, that's when you're going to get them to, they don't have time for this right now. I would love to have this conversation, but I can't right now. I mean, that's really the worst one for them. But the way you really can start to box them in is through those accountability sorts of things, where you can really start to hold them accountable, the empathy questions, the reflective questions, those sets of questions where you can really start to box them in, especially if you're in a work situation. That's what I've used it before, and they just get mad. Because once you start to box them in, that's when they're just they end up leaving, basically. But I would love to know which of these questioning techniques resonates with you the most. I've seen them work, by the way. They work like a charm, like a charm. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Investing in your mental health can feel like a big decision, but your peace of mind is just as essential as your physical well-being. Life brings challenges, from the anxiety of stress to navigating high conflict relationships, and you really shouldn't have to face them alone. Traditional in-person therapy can cost anywhere from $100 to $250 per session, but with BetterHelp, you could save up to 50% per session on average. For a flat weekly fee, you get consistent quality care right from wherever you are. With over 30,000 licensed therapists and over 5 million people that have been helped worldwide, BetterHelp makes it easy to find support that fits your life, and you can switch therapists anytime. Therapy isn't just for moments of crisis, it's for building boundaries, learning tools, and becoming the most empowered version of yourself. Your well-being is so worth it. Visit BetterHelp.com/negotiate to get 10% off your first month. Visit BetterHelp.com/negotiate. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/negotiate. So today we're diving into a topic that's incredibly important and often overlooked, and that's how to unmask the covert narcissists, because they are, honestly, I think, the most dangerous ones, because everybody thinks they're so wonderful, so beautiful, so nice, so lovely and sweet and kind, and often even like the victim. And how do you accelerate their downfall in court? Covert narcissists hide behind a veneer of humility and charm, and they make it difficult to expose their true nature. But with the right strategies, you can reveal their manipulations and turn the legal tide in your favor. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing my secrets in helping you do just that. And I've been recognized as one of the best lawyers in America by US News. I've been a trial lawyer for many, many years, and I started studying narcissism so I could beat them in the courtroom. And I'm here to help you win too. So let's understand the covert narcissist tactics. First of all, what makes a covert narcissist so dangerous in a legal setting? Unlike overt narcissists, who are loud and obvious in their self-importance, covert narcissists are much more subtle. They present as victims, misunderstood, overly humble. This makes them incredibly difficult to expose because their manipulations are cloaked in a guise of innocence. They've got this Oh, poor me, poor me. And they use tactics like gaslighting, just like all narcissists do. They play the victim, and subtle manipulation like passive aggression to get others like judges, attorneys, and others to see them as the innocent party. I always call them the pearl grabbers. What? Me, what? I would never. They're experts at hiding their true intentions. This is why unmasking them requires a skill and a very highly strategic approach. All right. So, what you have to do is you've got to gather specific evidence, specific documented evidence. And the first step in accelerating the downfall of a covert narcissist in court is to gather specific documented evidence because they operate in the shadows. You need to bring their behavior into the light with hard facts. This includes emails, text messages, recordings, social media posts, witnesses, any other documentation that you've got that shows a pattern of manipulation, shows a pattern of deceit, a pattern of abuse. And then you put it together with summaries, a summary of lies, manipulation, of any kind of summary that you can put together. And then you're going to have folders. You're going to organize them by the statute, or you're going to organize them by email. You're going to organize them by timeline. And you are going to have these highlighted by patterns of behavior. So if they have a habit of sending out passive aggressive emails or making veiled threats, you're going to compile these into a timeline that demonstrates their ongoing manipulation. This makes it much harder for them to dismiss each as something that's, what are you talking about? You're reading into that. That's an isolated incident, or that's not what I meant, or that sort of thing. Now, when it all stacks together, it's obvious that that was a way that they have been, right? It is a manipulation. It is something that's been ongoing. So now let's talk about the power of witness testimonies. Covert narcissists often rely on their ability to charm and manipulate those around them, but they can't fool everyone, and they can't fool everyone forever. And there will be people in their lives, whether it's family members or old friends or people they've known for a long time, co-workers, who are going to be willing to come forward, who've seen glimpses into their true nature. And that's where you gather these witness testimonies, and you gather these people who are willing to come in or testify, or willing to put together a sworn statement, or who are willing to get on the record and say, I've seen this. And these can be game changers in court. These testimonies can corroborate your documented evidence and provide the judge with a clearer picture of the narcissist's true character. And make sure that your witnesses not only are well prepared, but they also are people who are going to present well. They have a good character. They are people who are well spoken, and people who are going to hold up on cross-examination, okay? And they understand the importance of their testimony in court in unmasking the covert narcissist. They know where you're going. They know the goal of what their testimony is supposed to be. Strategic cross-examination is the next part. One of the most effective tools in your arsenal is the strategic cross-examination of the covert narcissist. The goal here is to expose their lies and manipulation by asking precise leading questions that forces them to reveal their true nature and then contradict themselves. They've already testified. They've done their direct examination. Now it's your lawyer's turn to ask them pointed questions. So you want to make sure that you've done your homework to provide your lawyer with everything that they need, because it's going to be based on the facts. But then your lawyer, or you, if you're representing yourself, has to make sure that they ask yes or no questions. You don't ever ask questions that you don't know the answers to. You make sure that it's going to be very, very super tight, airtight, because they're very skilled at evading questions. So you want to stay really tight within these questions. You know the answers right away. If you allow them to slither out, they will. So make sure that you prepare it ahead of time. But this is where you can expose them. This is where they can start to panic. This leads to mistakes, and this is where you can start to have them reveal their true nature and the mask starts to whip off. It can actually kind of be fun when you really start to see it happen, to be honest with you. I've seen it happen many times in trials and in court, and it's actually very, very interesting to see it happen in real time unfold. The next thing is highlighting the impact on others. When you can highlight the impact of their behavior on other people, including the children, financial disputes, or professional relationships, judges are more likely to sit up and take notice if they can see the real world consequences of the narcissist's behavior on others. For example, if their manipulations have negatively affected your children, make sure to bring this to the court's attention. It's not just they've been awful, whatever. You've got to have documentation, financial harm, documented records, medical records, something that shows facts. All right. You can't just say they're a terrible person. Show it through facts. It's really, really helpful if you can demonstrate it through psychological facts, medical facts, financial records. That's where now the judge sits up and takes notice. All right, if this is helpful so far, give me a so helpful in the comments below, and make sure that you join my free private Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. Grab my free Crush My Negotiation playbook at winmynegotiation.com, because preparation is your best defense against a narcissist as well. And finally, it's crucial to present a clear and consistent narrative throughout your case. Covert narcissists thrive on confusion and misdirection. So your job is to simplify and keep it super clear for the judge. All right. The judge hears lots and lots of stuff all day long. So the more you can keep it clear, the more you can keep it streamlined, the better it's going to be for you. So use your evidence, use your witness testimony, strategic questioning, and weave the narrative super clearly so that the narcissist's true nature is so obvious. Avoid getting bogged down in minor details, because then it's all tangential and it just goes all over the place. And don't allow the narcissist to distract you in all that over there either. Stay focused on the big picture, revealing the pattern of manipulation, deceit, or harm. When the judge can see the full scope of the narcissist's behavior, it becomes much harder for them to maintain their facade. So how will they react when you know who they are, when you're starting to feel triggered, when you're starting to go, oh my God, I just want to get out of here? What's going to happen when you reject them? Well, the first thing they may try to do is they might try to like love bomb you right away. They might kind of go, oh, come on, we can work this out. You know, they might turn on that charm first thing and get you to stay. That might be the first thing that they do, you know, because that's worked for them in the past. Or they might try to future fake you and go, it'll be better, you'll see, we'll go to counseling, or, you know, all of those things. That might be the first thing that they do. But if that doesn't work and they're starting to see the old stuff isn't working and they're really seeing that this is the path that's happening, then they're going to start to go, okay, I'm feeling hurt. I'm feeling rejected. I'm going to start to now get bitter and angry and depressed. They're going to maybe try to get you to change your mind. But, you know, they've got this narcissistic injury that's deep within them that happened when they were children. Something in their brain, in their the limbic system in their brain is going to get activated. That part of their brain is now going to get triggered, which will cause you to now have to deal with whatever that means. So when that part of their brain gets activated, which is basically a part of their brain that was, you know, emotionally not matured It didn't mature as fast as other parts of their brain. It was really, I want to say, arrested development. That it didn't develop the same way because what happened was, they were exposed to a lot of trauma. And during that period of time, when fight or flight was kicking in all the time, chemicals were being emitted in their brain and caused that part of their brain to constantly be, exposed to these chemicals. And so that part of their brain just didn't develop as much as it should have. And so when they get rejected, that limbic system, that part of their brain gets activated again, and they feel angry. They feel bitter. They want to lash out. They may become depressed. But really what happens is it's like the survival mechanism comes back out again, and they almost can't see anything about anyone. They're not thinking in a rational, reasonable way. And it causes them to act out in ways that it's not good. They will try to sabotage you. They think in terms of black and white. And if you're not for them, then you are against them. And now you become public enemy number one. So now they have to go after you. So now you are on the other side of the fence. So they're going to have to take you down before you can take them down. And they want to make you look bad before you can make them look bad, because you know things about them and they don't trust anybody to begin with. So they're going to try to do everything to sabotage you. And, the thing that doesn't even make any sense is that they'll do what they have to do to take you down, even if it means sabotaging themselves. I've seen them even sabotage themselves to take other people down. And so what does that mean in real life? Well, it means using children as swords. It means saying things about people that aren't true, using the court system as a sword, lining up people against you, lying, writing emails that aren't true, texting things that aren't true, going after you at your work, all kinds of things, flooding you with texts, flooding you with emails, showing up at your house or office, potentially stalking you, angry, bitter, lashing out, depending on their level of emotional control. It just really is no telling of what they might do. Some have more emotional control than others, but when you reject a narcissist, that's what happens. And during the discard phase is when you start to see the birth of that smear campaign. But here's the thing. They are the worst right before they're ready to give up. They don't want to be exposed for who they really are. That's how you build your leverage, is figuring out how to potentially expose them, especially to supply that they don't want to be exposed to. If you're a renter, you have to hear this. We rack up points on groceries, travel, practically everything else. But rent, until recently, that was just money out the door, but not anymore. With Bill, paying rent finally pays off. There's no cost to join, and just by paying rent, you unlock flexible points that can be transferred to your favorite hotels, airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and more. When you pay rent through Built, you unlock two powerful benefits. First, you earn industry's most valuable points on rent, every month, no matter where you live or who your landlord is. Your rent now works for you. Second, you gain access to your exclusive neighborhood benefits in your city. Built's neighborhood benefits are things like extra points on dining out, complimentary post-workout shakes, free mats or towels at your favorite fitness studios, and unique workout experiences that only Built members can access. And when you're ready to travel, Built points can be converted to your favorite miles and hotel points around the world, meaning your rent can literally take you places. So if you're not earning points on rent, my question is, what are you waiting for? Start paying rent through Built and take advantage of your neighborhood benefits by going to joinbuilt.com/negotiate. That's JOINBILT.com/negotiate. Make sure to use our URL so that they know we sent you. Joinbuilt.com/negotiate to sign up for Built today. So they are, unfortunately, so easy for me to come up with great examples. It's like I can come up with these so easily because the examples are like, hypothetical, of course. So anyway, I'm giving you 5 ways to expose a covert narcissist. So number one is they are inherently lazy. So they want to feed off of you. There's, again, very hypothetical. So the number one idea is to give them deadlines. Give them deadlines and then hold them to them. Because they are inherently lazy, they will not want to do that. And I've coached a couple of people who've had covert narcissist business partners, and it's really interesting how they all have the same playbook. They kind of think that they're just going to attach themselves to people who actually work hard and have talent, and they think, oh, well, this person will make me look good, and this person will actually do all the work, and I'll just let them do it all. They initially do stuff. They initially make it look like there's a flurry of activity going on, but then, they kind of just hang back and they don't really do that much. So the way to expose them is just, you start to have to give them deadlines. You start to have to kind of make them do stuff. And you actually have to hold them to it and say, hey, where's your, whatever it is that you gave them deadlines on. It's a little bit tiresome, frankly, after a while. So I don't recommend, if you kind of know that you are dealing with a covert narcissist, I wouldn't recommend getting into either a relationship or a business partnership with this person. I would recommend staying the hell away from them. But if you end up stuck with them and you're trying to get out of it, which I do recommend that you do, part of the way that you can start to expose them is give them deadlines. So that's number one. Number two, they also don't generally have their own ideas. So you can try to make them come up with their own ideas, and then also give them a deadline for that. And if you really want to expose them, I know it sounds mean, but we're talking about exposing them here. So another way that you can expose them with making them come up with their own ideas is have them do it in a group setting. So have them come up with their own ideas and then make them present their own ideas in a group setting. See what they come up with on their own. That's number two. Number three is, if you suspect that you were dealing with a potential covert narcissist, I would definitely trust your gut. And hey, I'm not bitter. It's just that I tend to be overly generous, and I just actually had a whole conversation with a woman who has been my business coach and one of my dearest friends for a really long time. And she actually said, you tend to be overly generous to a fault, and then tend to be taken advantage of. So I'm working on that, and just finding the people and attracting people into my life that are worth being generous to. They exist in the world, and I am attracting them into my life now. So anyway, when you suspect you are dealing with a covert narcissist or any potential narcissist, this is number 3, by the way, please trust your gut. Do not give them access to things. Do not give them access to your passwords. Do not give them your logins. This is number 3, and much more on this in my video. And it's called This is the Only Way to Get a Narcissist to Respect You. It's a really good video. Definitely check that out. Number 4 is, well, they are hypocrites. So they will say one thing, they will do something else. Their words will not match their behavior. That will happen a lot. So you can definitely call them out on that, such as, they'll say that they were a victim of someone, and then they'll say they don't like that person, and then the next thing you know, they'll be hanging out with that person. So you can say, oh, I thought you didn't like that person. I thought you didn't want to spend time with them. Ask them why they want to spend time with them if they don't like them, something like that. Or they might say that they were sick. And then all of a sudden they are wanting to go to an event that, is like really prestigious because it'll really look good if they end up going to it. That sort of thing. Like, you can definitely call them out on their behavior because they're very much hypocrites. So it'll be very easy to find opportunities to do that for sure. And if you want to call them out, give me a call them out in the comments below. And the last one is, definitely, I got caught with this. You don't want to do the same. Make sure you follow up every single convo with a confirmatory email or text, because guess what? They will definitely gaslight you. You know how those covert narcs are. They love them some gaslighting. It's definitely one of their favorite little things. And so they will try to manipulate your conversations. We talked about that. You don't remember? Oh, yes, you agreed to that. And you didn't agree to that. But they'll say that you did. And they try to make you think you're crazy. It's a way to weaken you. It's a way to destabilize you. They do that. And, I just had a conversation with somebody yesterday who was like, been gaslit so often, very intelligent woman. And she was like, she didn't even remember for sure if she had signed like a huge check a few years ago, like hundreds of thousands of dollars. She was like going to go hire a handwriting expert to see if she had actually signed a check. And I was like, no, you're not going to hire a handwriting expert. You're going to say, I did not sign that check. I don't remember signing it. Therefore, I did not sign it. So, but they gaslight you so much, like you start to question your own mind, right? So make sure you follow up every single conversation, like in real time, right away, with a text or an email. Hello, we just met and we had this conversation and this is what we talked about. Just confirming. Thank you. Have a nice day. That will help you and it will help them and hopefully be continuing to move smoothly in the world. So anyway, those are 5 ways to expose a covert narcissist. All right, let's talk about that narcissist and what happens to them when they become exposed. Well, let me just tell you that is definitely their worst fear. They do not want to be exposed. And so they will do whatever they need to. I mean, basically, they walk around with kind of 2 versions of themselves. There's that little inner child, that little scared little person inside. And then there's these layers and layers and layers of who they want to be, who they want to become, who they want the world to think that they are. And so they make sure that the perception is absolutely what they want it to be. So they're going to do whatever they need to protect that perception. And I always say that that's their like grade A diamond level version of supply. They need an endless amount of narcissistic supply, which is anything that feeds their ego. So it could be adulation or compliments or having the right friends or being in the right places or having the most beautiful home or the right car or the prestigious job or the, whatever it is, all those things give them a sense of value and worth from the external side. And if they're not going to get it that way, then they're going to get it the other way, which is what I call the grade D coal level supply, which is like it burns, it gives them energy. It's not as good. It's like there's this hierarchy of supply, but the grade D coal level supply is, I'm going to make you miserable. I'm going to make you squirm. I'm going to intimidate you. I'm going to try to scare you. And in their warped sense of reality, they think that they're getting you to respect them when you act like that. They really kind of mistake fear of them, or fear of what they're going to do, or fear of the retribution, or any of that sort of thing, for like, now you're respecting me, now you're giving me the attention that I want. And so they'll get supply from that way as well. I mean, they're really supply whores. They're like sharks that smell blood in the water. Wherever they can get it from, that's where they're going to get it from. What I want to do is, at the end of this, I'm going to give you some exact ways to combat exposing them, especially in negotiations, which is what I teach you how to do. You don't want to just go ahead and expose them if you're getting ready to negotiate with them right away, because that will definitely be something that you can threaten. It's a diamond level source of supply. So you can definitely threaten that source of supply. And that's going to be a fantastic source of leverage for you. So if you want to know more about how to create leverage over narcissists, definitely check out my video on creating leverage over narcissists. But that's basically the gist of it, is, threatening that source of supply that means the most to them. So how do they act when they get exposed? Number one is, I call it lying and denying. They're going to lie to you and say, oh, that wasn't me, that I didn't do that, you're mistaken. They'll deny it and just say, nope, it was somebody else. That's projection. Could be gaslighting. Oh, the text message that you're seeing, you're misreading it. You're reading more into it. You're taking it out of context. I'm thinking back to how in the movie Dirty John, which I was thinking I should do a whole video on this, but in the movie Dirty John, which was based on a true story, by the way, the man who preyed upon the woman lied and said that he was a physician. And he even would like walk around in his scrubs, and he would pretend like he was going to work in these scrubs or whatever. And then her daughter found his diploma, and it turned out he was a nurse, not a doctor. And, he spun some web about how he was actually a nurse anesthetist, which has like a doctorate degree. So he actually is a doctor. And she kind of like bought it for a period of time, because she just wanted to, have him around. She loved him. She wanted to believe him. So they'll do that. They'll kind of spin these webs and project and deny. And that's like a form of gaslighting, which is, what you're seeing is not actually what you're seeing. It's a way to make you think that you're crazy. It destabilizes you. It weakens you. It makes you question your own mind. And that's what gaslighting is. And that's something that they'll do as well. Another thing that they'll do is what we call future faking. And I have a whole video on this too, if you want to check it out. But future faking is basically, forget the past. Let's just move on from here. The future is the future. I'll be better. Everything will be wonderful. You'll see. So that's another thing that they'll do if they think that they're going to be exposed. Another thing that they'll do is start back to what worked in the beginning. Hoover you, love bomb you. You're the best. We're perfect together. We're supposed to be soulmates. Or if it's a business relationship, I know in my situation, I had a business partner who was a narcissist. And when I started to realize what was going on and expose this other person, now all of a sudden the person started doing all the things that they weren't doing in the beginning, all this stepping up and actually starting to carry some of the weight in the partnership. And it actually, when that starts to happen, it's actually more annoying than ever, because you think, why weren't you doing this the whole time? And if you think that this is so wrong, give me a so wrong in the comments below. All right. So the next thing that you'll see after, if none of those other things work for them, now you've triggered that narcissistic rage. Now that narcissistic injury has been aggravated, and the narcissistic rage will come out, and they'll start to go crazy, and they may even collapse. And I do have a whole video on what happens when a narcissist collapses, what that looks like, or becomes undone. The Hugh Grant movie, The Undoing, is a great example of that. And I have a video on that as well if you want to check it out. But that's what will definitely happen. So what can you do about it? Because in negotiations, you want to tread lightly until you're ready to unleash your leverage, until you've put together that strategy, which is all part of my S.L.E.A.Y methodology. So which is strategy, leverage, anticipate, and focus on you. So until you're ready to unleash your leverage and really get them to feel squeezed and motivated to come to the negotiation table with you, then what you should do instead are a couple of things. One is bartering. And bartering is a very special way of dealing with a narcissist. This is where you basically give them something that they want to get something that you want. So you might say something like, can you handle updating the QuickBooks and doing the financial projections? You're so much better at that than I am. So you give them a little of that, what I call narcissistic fluffing. You're kind of fluffing up their ego like you're fluffing up a pillow. You give them a little something, and then you get a little something back. So that's bartering. So that's the first thing that you can do. The next thing that you can do is give them choices. You can say, within a universe of things, would you prefer this or would you prefer that? Or just make whatever it is that you want them to do, make it seem optional. You can do this if you want to. It's okay if you don't. I'll handle it, or it'll get done some other way. And then their ego steps in and it's like, no, I'll do it. But you have to make them think that they have a choice. That it works absolutely beautifully. And that's how you sort of ethically manipulate them into doing something that you want them to do. The next thing that you can do is you can ask them what they think. What do you think about that? What do you think about how this outcome would look? Or what do you think about this idea, or something like that? And then make them think that they're coming to that conclusion, that they're coming to that idea on their own, so that in a negotiation, they may even end up proposing it to you. And then they want to take credit for it. And that's totally fine, because you ended up getting what you wanted and they're none the wiser. So those are just a few things that you can do in order to minimize what you're going to get if you just totally expose a narcissist. So, and if you are getting ready to negotiate with a narcissist, please grab my free Crush My Negotiation prep worksheet at winmynegotiation.com. And if you want to connect with other people who are negotiating with narcissists, come on over and join my free private Facebook group. It's called Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. All right, let's talk about the 5 things that narcissists worry about. And you're going to want to watch all the way till the end, because I'm saving the best for last, of course. Number 1, the first thing that narcissists worry about is they worry about being forgotten. Narcissists really do not want to be forgotten, because of course they want to feel super special. That's one of the things that is really, really important to narcissists. It's actually one of the things that is highlighted in the spectrum of narcissistic personality disorder. If you look at the DSM-5, which is how psychologists and psychiatrists actually look to see if somebody has narcissistic personality disorder, they want to feel like they're special. So being forgotten is one of the most things that they worry about. Is one of the worst things that could possibly happen to them. They need to be the center of attention, and they fear that if they're not, it means that they kind of disappear, because they have no internal sense of value. They get all of their sense of value from external sources. So that's why they're constantly doing things to try to be the center of attention. You know, if they're an overt narcissist, they do things to be boastful, they brag a lot, you know, they overtly try to be the center of attention. If they're more of a covert narcissist, they act like the victim, they try to do things that make you feel guilty, that sort of thing. But either way, they're always trying to be the center of attention, even if it makes themselves look bad. Being forgotten is absolutely one of the top things that they worry about. Number 2 is losing control. They absolutely hate losing control. They must be in control of everything at all times. And how they go about that is, you know, they do that in different ways, depending on whether they're an overt narcissist or a covert narcissist. They definitely want to be in control at all times. This is why they are manipulative. This is why, you know, sometimes they're passive aggressive. Sometimes they use gaslighting. You know, they have all these different ways of trying to be in control at all times. They have their little kingdoms or queendoms, depending on what type of, you know, if they're male or female or whatever. But this need for control is constant. And this is why they're constantly on this hunt for narcissistic supply. Worrying about losing control is something that keeps them up at night, quite frankly. And they, you know, they're super insecure. So, you know, they have trust issues, all of these things. So obviously, losing control is a big, big problem for them. Number 3 is being rejected. They absolutely are very, very concerned about whether or not somebody is, you know, for them or against them. And, you know, for them, everything is black and white. So you are either for them or you're against them. And being slighted is, you know, even if there's a hint of it, a tone of it. I always say that narcissists hear tones like dogs hear whistles. Even if there's no tone, they hear tone. I mean, they're highly, highly sensitive to being rejected. It really comes down to the fact that, you know, they're operating on an immature, emotionally limbic brain, frankly. And so they need to be loved and accepted by everybody, and highly sensitive to the fact that they're not, even if they say, I don't care if these people like me. I mean, they'll say that. They say that all the time. But the fact of the matter is that they very much do. And they'll say, I feel whole. I feel complete. I don't care if anybody loves me. But they are extremely, extremely sensitive to this. And this fear of being rejected leads them to being actually very clingy and needy in relationships. Even if they're rejecting you, they'll reject you, but then pull you back, reject you, then pull you back. It's a very hot and cold type of relationship, but that is how they are. They're extremely nervous about being rejected. That is the next one. The next one is they're extremely worried about being alone. They hate being alone. They need people around because that's where they get their narcissistic supply. They get supply from people. So they need people to be giving them that supply. That's where they get the feeding of their ego, is from those sources. So they need that. It's either going to be in the form of what I call diamond level supply, which is adulation or people giving them that prestige, that sort of thing. or what I call coal-level supply, which is controlling people, debasing people, treating people poorly, that sort of thing. But they need to be surrounded by people at all times. And this fear of being alone can lead them to being very codependent on people. And when people try to leave them, they go crazy, stalking sometimes, trying to make you feel guilty. I mean, even after they've treated you so poorly, they go crazy if you try to leave them. It's so crazy, but that's what happens. I mean, they hate being alone. So that's one of their major fears, one of their major worries as well. So that's number 4. And if you've seen any of these so far, give me a totally in the comments, right? Totally you've seen this. I know you have. Now I have led myself up to number 5, which is the big one, the most important one. Absolutely. And when you are negotiating with a narcissist, trying to get something out of them, trying to create leverage, this is the biggie. This is the most important one. This is the one when you are developing any kind of a strategy, which is all part of my S.L.E.A.Y methodology, by the way, strategy, leverage, anticipate, focus on you. This is where you're going to build your leverage. Number 5 is they worry about being exposed. This is the most important one, the thing they worry about the absolute most. They are very worried about being exposed. They don't want anyone to see their true selves. They don't want to be exposed to anyone, including their partners. They don't want to even show their true selves to their spouses, to anyone, because they don't want anyone, they don't trust anyone, they don't want anyone to know who they are. This fear of exposure leads them to live lives of lies and deception and manipulation. And, they'll tell everyone else, you're not trustworthy and you're a liar. They call everybody else these names. But the truth of the matter is, it's they themselves that are not trustworthy. It's they themselves who are the liars. It's they themselves who are projecting and deflecting, who are doing all of the things that they are accusing other people of because they are afraid, deathly afraid of being exposed. And so this is the area that you can actually build leverage around.